one is questioning whether someone was crucified on a cross approximately 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem. But new data has come to light that questions whether that person was in fact the actual person who we commonly call Jesus. I fully recognize that this is a very controversial topic. People take their religions very seriously. But history is not a religion, it is factual. And here at Farsight, we only investigate the facts, whatever they turn out to be. I ask your patience as I show you the new data that we have assembled for you that clearly indicate that the guy who was actually crucified on the cross in Jerusalem approximately 2,000 years ago was not the historical Jesus. I do not demand that you believe our results. I am only asking that you watch the results, consider the ideas presented here, and then make up your own mind. I am Courtney Brown, Director of Farsight. At Farsight, we study the perceptual process known as remote viewing. Now, remote viewing is a mental process that is done using highly structured methodologies that are derived from those developed by the United States military and used for espionage purposes. But Farsight is civilian, and we use remote viewing for scientific experiments and for exploration. This new project conducted at Farsight employs remote viewers who are among the most experienced and highly trained professional viewers existing today. The remote viewers all describe much the same thing, all corroborating reports, and it is worth emphasizing that the remote viewing was done totally blind under very defendable conditions, and none of the remote viewers communicated with one another about the project during the data collection phase. Even their final presentations were recorded on video with no one else in the room. This is not science fiction, told through riveting remote viewing conducted under defendable, clean scientific conditions. This is as real as it gets. Now, let me give you some background. We did a Jesus and the Crucifixion project long ago using one very talented remote viewer, Daz Smith. But the board of the Farsight Institute found it too controversial a project to support. The board of the Farsight Institute was concerned that the project could discredit remote viewing, causing people to hate the process and even the people involved with remote viewing, even if the results were true. They felt it was too potentially disruptive to the larger idea of promoting remote viewing as a new science. Because of these concerns, I had to release the movie as an independent film on its own website, not connected to the Farsight Institute. That website is crucifixionruse.com. Well, I fully realized at the time that for us to know more about the crucifixion, we would need to revisit that topic with more remote viewers. So 3 things were needed. First, we needed to train a group of new remote viewers who were the very best on the planet. That took time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money, but we eventually did it. They are our current group of remote viewers at Farsight. Second, we needed to make sure these remote viewers got this project totally blind. They had to have no knowledge that we would ever revisit this topic. Third, we had to be able to release this project on a venue that was not associated with the nonprofit, the Farsight Institute, or Farsight Research, Inc., which is the nonprofit's corporate name. Now we have farsightprime.com, which is the streaming service for the corporation Farsight, Inc., which is a normal Type C corporation that is separate from Farsight Research, Inc. Nonetheless, we all support the educational mission of Farsight Research, Inc., regardless of where or how our work is presented. So we want to be mindful of the sensitivities involved. So we are trying to present our findings in this project as carefully as possible. Again, we know that people take their religions very seriously, but Jesus was an exceptionally important historical figure, and we cannot ignore history just because of the religious values of some or many people. At Farsight, we are only concerned with the integrity of our data, and that means that we do not change our results to match what the audience may want to see. We are true to the data, period. Now, if you are new to what we do here at Farsight, you may want to watch more of our content so that you can see that remote viewing is very real and what we do is of high quality. We do not demand that you believe us or that you follow us. We only ask that you watch what we have done and then make up your own mind. Now, I am not going to say much to introduce this project. I think the data speak for themselves clear as day, but let me summarize what I personally think happened given what our data show. I am basing this on both the data for this particular project as well as the accumulated body of work done at Farsight to date, which is a huge collection of diverse projects. I strongly encourage everyone to watch all of the data and to watch our other projects and to simply consider the ideas presented here. So, here is what I think our data show. Feel free to disagree. First, Jesus was clearly a real person. He existed. Also, our data suggests that he was a powerful personality, and in general, he was motivated to do good things. And I would call him a very good person based on all of the data that we have collected. Apparently, he came to this planet to change things for the better. This was a torturously painful planet in his day, a true slave civilization. The Greek and Roman empires were slave empires from top to bottom. Moreover, anyone who raised a serious challenge to the authorities or who amassed a significant following back in those days was crucified. They did that to anyone who raised their head. The authorities used the fear of crucifixion to keep the masses in line. So, coming into this society, Jesus knew what would happen to anyone who rocked the boat. That was a foregone conclusion that was not in dispute. But Jesus showed up with his memory of who he was fully intact. He had not been processed by what we at Farsight call the death traps that are used to recycle people back into this planet. If this is a new idea to you, you may want to watch our project titled The Death Traps that you can find on farsightprime.com. Moreover, our projects clearly indicate that Earth has been run as a literal prison for thousands of years. It is still to this day run as a prison. If you are in search of hell, nowhere in this galaxy will you find it more than on Earth. Now understand that we at Farsight do not use the word soul or spirit because of the religious baggage that is associated with those terms. We say Isbe, and Isbe is a person who simply is for the purpose of being. We are all Isbes, each and every one of us. We have found that all Isbes exist across all time and space, which is why the remote viewing process works in the first place. Also, it is impossible to kill an Isbe. No one in the universe has ever figured out how to do that. It simply cannot be done. However, you can trick an Isbe, you can capture an Isbe, you can enslave an Isbe, you can lie to an Isbe, you can do all manner of bad things to an Isbe, but you just can never kill an Isbe. So back in the day, apparently, the purpose that Jesus had in mind was to insert some positive ideas into the thinking of society. Ideas like love is the energy that drives the universe, and it is okay to forgive people, to let things go, chill out, be at peace with yourself and others, abandon fear as a driving force for motivating behavior. And the idea was to let those ideas circulate in society for a few hundred years to change the planet for the better. Trouble was, the extraterrestrials who we at Farsight called the bad ETs had a prison to run, and they did not want anything to challenge their control over the planetary population. It was becoming increasingly obvious that the Greek and Roman gods' idea had run its course, so they needed an updated solution to control the population. Logistically, this was not much of a problem for ETs who can mentally manipulate human leadership to make the appropriate adjustments. So, for each Greek and Roman god, there were new saints created to handle the diverse interests of the masses. Moreover, the dogma was created that forced obedience by the masses, dogma that relied on fear, indeed terror, to whip people into line. That is where the idea of heaven and hell came about. If people were willing to get down on their knees and beg for forgiveness, then they could be granted eternal life. If they refused to beg for forgiveness, then they would be banished to the fires of hell for all eternity. The fear of it all was so terrifying that few saw the contradiction. How could someone be granted eternal life if they would also exist for eternity in hell, if they disobeyed the authorities? Eternity was eternity on both sides. Well, all of this was just a nutty, but nonetheless very effective story that was used to keep the masses in line. And if someone said they made no sin so that they did not need to beg for forgiveness, then there was the idea of original sin. So even if someone had done nothing wrong, they were still guilty because of something that Adam and Eve cooked up. Again, nutty, but effective. It worked as a way to enforce subservient obedience for hundreds and hundreds of years. Well, back to the crucifixion. Jesus knew that someone was going to get crucified if he tried to change the way people thought on this prison planet. But that did not mean it wasn't a good idea to try, regardless of whether or not it worked. Something had to be done. So a plan was cooked up to allow the crucifixion to happen without Jesus actually going through it. Someone else was asked to go through it, someone who had some mental challenges, who thought he was the Messiah, and who enthusiastically volunteered to do what he thought was the fulfillment of prophecy. Only a few disciples of Jesus were told about the scheme. They had to keep this a secret if it was going to work for obvious reasons. The job of Judas was to lead the authorities to the correct person. A very risky job, I might add, since he would also have been crucified if the authorities understood what was happening. The authorities had never seen Jesus up close, so this swap could be done if it was done competently. And the rest is history. Now, it is time to see the data with your own eyes, all recorded live on video with remote viewers all totally blind to the actual target or the nature of the project. If you know about our work here at Farsight, and if you are fully aware of the quality of that work, you will know that these data are for real. But again, just watch, and then you will be your own judge. As with all projects done at Farsight, there is a target. The target is that which serves as the focus of attention for the remote viewers. But remember that the remote viewers are not told this target or anything about the project when they do their work. Their ISB selves extend through all time and space, just like everyone else. Our viewers are simply highly trained at describing these perceptions that originate from their ISB selves, as compared with the thoughts of the electrochemical physical brain. So, their ISB selves are able to focus on the correct target, even though their physical brains have never known of the target. Now, the target for this project had two focuses. Basically, with this project, we are interested in watching Jesus while the crucifixion was in progress. Where was he when that event was going on? What was he doing? And what was he thinking? That is the first focus. Now, the second focus is the actual crucifixion itself. We wanted our viewers to describe that event as well as the person who was being crucified. Now, here is the exact wording of the two focuses. And remember, the viewers did not know any of this when they did their work. The first focus is the actual historical figure of Yeshua ben Yosef, the person currently and popularly known as Jesus, at the target time specified below. The viewer is to focus only on the actual person in his actual historical reality, regardless of any culturally accepted historical view or interpretation of this reality, and regardless of any written historical account of this reality. Regardless of any and all popularly accepted views or interpretations, the viewer is to locate the actual person of Yeshua ben Yosef during the specific time that is now popularly referenced as the crucifixion of Jesus. The viewer is to describe the surroundings of Yeshua ben Yosef during this event. The viewer is to enter the mind of Yeshua ben Yosef, to perceive the emotions, thoughts, and mindset of this person at the time of this event. Now, the second focus for this project is the actual person who authorities identified as Jesus and killed, regardless of the actual historical identity of this person, whatever that may be. The target time is specified below. Now, the viewer is to focus only on the actual person in his actual historical reality, regardless of any culturally accepted historical view or interpretation of this reality, and regardless of any written historical account of this reality. Regardless of any and all popularly accepted views or interpretations, the viewer is to locate this person at the time of his death, which is the time that is now popularly referenced as the crucifixion of Jesus, regardless of whether or not the death was by means of crucifixion or any other method. The viewer is to describe the event and the surroundings of this event. The viewer is to enter the mind of this person, to perceive the thoughts, emotions, and mindset of this person at the time of this event. So let's begin, starting with a session by Intisam, and then Aziz Brown, Shante, Kamaya, and finally Yemejene. Here are our perceptions of what actually happened approximately 2,000 years ago during the event that eventually became known as the crucifixion of Jesus. And remember, the remote viewers knew nothing about the target for this project or anything about the nature of the project when they did their work. So if you are upset with what they describe, remind yourself that they did their work totally blind and without communicating with one another during the data collection phase of the project.